everyone remembers how Governor Abbott of Texas, he rescinded some of these mandates. Governor Newsom of California tweeted out that it was unacceptable, or I don't remember what term he used, but he was basically condemning it. Nothing happened as a consequence, and everyone pretended it didn't happen. So if you have these big rallies, which they're going to be described as white supremacist rallies, they're going to describe it that way anyway, and this is showing people we're not going to stand 6 feet apart from each other, and no one's going to die as a consequence. We're going to be safe, and so on and so forth. That kind of element of defiance is useful because people in the middle, there's something called the bandwagon effect. Mm-hmm. People in the middle who don't really have a political opinion one way or another, but basically, all my life I'm a New Yorker, I'm not a sports fan. People like Yankees or Mets. I would say Mets because I like the blue and the orange better. I literally have no other mechanism for choosing. But if you have no mechanism for choosing, you're going to go to the people who are having fun. Yeah. You're going to go to the people who have the energy. So if you have one group that's like, be miserable, never go to a concert, the other one's like, don't you want to have like rock and roll and listen to even Elvis? It's like, yeah, I'm going to go to where the people who are having fun are, and that's a big threat to their control.
As I've been saying for a while, I mean, all of us have a limited window on social media. Sure. I'm thrilled that I think you were the second guy on Locals, basically, and you're killing it on there. But it seems to me that because of exactly what you just said there, that the jig is up, they've been exposed, everyone gets it, they can't let us on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook much longer. Like, it just can't, it's not tenable.
But I've always said there's going to have to be alternative sources for people, and our culture has to bifurcate in order to go forward. Back in the day, it was ABC, NBC, CBS. Now in terms of news, there's literally thousands of sources. Some of them are completely wrong and misinformation and kooky. Some of them it's a spectrum. Some are objective and spot on the money. They are the only way the New York Times can be the New York Times in terms of stature is if it has close to monopoly on the microphone. Mm-hmm. And I don't see how, like Humpty Dumpty, once that egg is shattered, how you put it back together again. You were never going to be again as a country. And it's not even in terms of the news. Look at like the MASH finale. For kids, there was a show called MASH, which is about the Korean War.
What was the number? What was the number on the finale?
60%?
60 million, I
think. It was something crazy. But even the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This was something that everyone, air quotes, in America is watching. You can't get that together in terms of the New York Times or even CBS, ABC, NBC News anymore. Our country has become too split up. And choice is the basis of liberalism. That's what liberalism means. You have as many options and you're free to choose as you wish, but this is a big threat because their entire worldview is based on their depravity and malfeasance. They're more upset that someone had their feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk, that many people in the elites were possibly engaging in statutory rape with Jeffrey Epstein, and ABC News knew about this and didn't inform the authorities.
But the guy had his feet up. He was wearing his shoes. He took a picture. I mean,
were they seal leather?
They were not as fancy as your shoes, that's for sure. So at what point do you think we've crossed the Rubicon here? Have we crossed the valley, let's say, where we should just start ignoring them? I struggle with this all the time.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
The battle is won when the average American regards a corporate journalist exactly as they regard a tobacco executive. Now, whenever I say this, some midwit has to get on Twitter and say, the tobacco executive's much better. Yeah, I said regards. And that is the next step. You have to realize, I'm not Catholic, you're not Catholic. I like the Pope. Some of the popes I like, some I don't like. You can hear him out, but there's no reason for me to believe everything he says or to trust him to some exceptional degree. So the thing is, there's no reason the same way to believe CNN, Fox, NBC. These are corporate entities with an agenda. And if you're at a point where Coca-Cola is telling their employees to be less racist, given Coca-Cola's extremely racist history.
Right. They've sort of backed off this thing though, right? Didn't they delete some of the diversity and inclusion stuff?
And that's the point. Now they are trying their shenanigans, but people are onto them. And instead of trying to have this lively debate, it's like, we're not having this conversation. This is just a mechanism for you to further your power. And we're going to have to fight back because I am not going to bend the knee to your nonsense any longer, especially because constantly and explicitly you're coming for our children.
Do you think it's possible that they've awoken a real lion here, like a real beast? And I mean that in the best sense, that I just tweeted this out in the last couple hours, something about we need rallies again. Like the Trump rallies were so much joy, so much positivity. so much true diversity and all of that stuff. And I'm not saying it has to be Trump doing it. I personally wouldn't have a problem if it was Trump. But like, do we just need they in effect, they've awoken something that we must get out there and show them that we're here, that that's the only way. And they locked us in our houses to make sure we couldn't do it.
Do you know why those...
While they bowed at protesters.
Those rallies are a great idea for the simple reason that it's a symbol of defiance.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers how Governor Abbott of Texas, he rescinded some of these mandates. Governor Newsom of California tweeted out that it was unacceptable, or I don't remember what term he used, but he was basically condemning it. Nothing happened as a consequence, and everyone pretended it didn't happen. So if you have these big rallies, which they're going to be described as white supremacist rallies, they're going to describe it that way anyway, and this is showing people we're not going to stand 6 feet apart from each other, and no one's going to die as a consequence. We're going to be safe, and so on and so forth. That kind of element of defiance is useful because people in the middle, there's something called the bandwagon effect. Mm-hmm. People in the middle who don't really have a political opinion one way or another, but basically, all my life I'm a New Yorker, I'm not a sports fan. People like Yankees or Mets. I would say Mets because I like the blue and the orange better. I literally have no other mechanism for choosing. But if you have no mechanism for choosing, you're going to go to the people who are having fun. Yeah. You're going to go to the people who have the energy. So if you have one group that's like, be miserable, never go to a concert, the other one's like, don't you want to have like rock and roll and listen to even Elvis? It's like, yeah, I'm going to go to where the people who are having fun are, and that's a big threat to their control.
So in many ways, this is what you would have wanted to happen a long time ago at some level, right? That the right, the new right, to use the title of your book, that the new right would become the place that was creative and cool, and there would be music and parties and fun and sex and all of those things that humans are supposed to do, and all the left has is preening, fake morality, and hysteria and lunacy.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be a little bit pedantic and I apologize. I wouldn't call it fake morality. They really have a very strict, puritanical morality, which...
Well, I meant fake, meaning it's not moral in an objective sense.
No, it is moral in an objective sense, in the sense that, like, morality, let's get my Yaron Brook hat on.
Okay.
Morality in the Ayn Rand sense is basically a code of ethics or code of values which governs every aspect of your life. Keeping kosher in the Jewish ethics is a good example of acting ethically. Every choice you make with your food is guided by this ethical code. They have extended that to literally every aspect of your life. Who you sleep with, what kind of food you eat, it's got to be ethical, local, so on and so forth. How you dress, what shows you watch, who you interview on your own set. And it's just amazing to what extent. This is the other thing I point out. If you're talking, and I discussed about this in my book. If you're talking about video games, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books, places where people go to escape reality and escape the earth and have this kind of sense of adventure, their morality and their worldview even permeates there. There's nowhere on earth, space, time, or the future where you can go to escape their edicts. And at a certain point, many people are like, I don't want to live like this. I want to judge my friends on, are they going to be there for me when I have a tragedy, or not who they voted for, or whether they think Trump is Hitler, as opposed to maybe they think he's just a buffoon.
How much further will they crack down then, right? They're not going to just give up. Like, okay, so we start rallies again, we're creating good stuff, we're doing all the stuff that you would like to see happen. And by the way, I do think it's happening, right?
Oh, yes.
It is happening, there's no doubt about it. But they're not just going to give up, they're not just going to walk away. And even when Coke reverses slightly its diversity stuff, it's like, well, what are you really saying? Yesterday, you were telling half your employees that they're racist. Now you got exposed, so they're not? Like,
I remember last year.
What do we do with this?
I said the riots are about 72 hours away from having corporate sponsorship, and it was like 2 hours later, everyone's bending over backwards to endorse the civil unrest.
PlayStation. I literally turned on my PlayStation, and it offered me a free Black Lives Matter background.
Right, but it's amazing to what right. So everything has to be permeated with this very specific, and it's not only like it would be one thing if they had said we want people to value Black lives more. It specifically just has to be this one slogan, and this month we're only caring about Black people. Next month we're caring about this group. Next month we're caring about this group. And if you're a poor white person and you're resentful, well, you had your turn. Go home and suck it up. So I don't think this is something that's going to be able to last much longer. And I have to give credit to people on the left, people like James Carville, Van Jones, and some others, where they're like, this is something that cannot long-term sustain itself. And Britain, of all places, I mean, talk about just terms of a backward S-hole. They just had their local elections after having a new leader for Labour, which is one of their two main parties, Sir Keir, and he was much more to the center than their previous leader, Jeremy Corbyn. They had their off-year elections, and they were seeing their biggest losses since like World War II. So you're seeing this also in Germany, the Social Democrats, which are historically the second biggest party in Germany, are now polling at like 11 or 12%. So in country after country, this old coalition of the left being the party of the labor unions, the working man, they now have such contempt for the working man, especially in America since Reagan. When you had union workers who were voting Republican, they just they got thrown to the garbage as quickly as possible. And this is what I think people on the right don't understand. They don't care about Muslim immigrants, Mexican people at the border, transgender rights. It's whatever group is of use at the moment to further their agenda. And once that group is not behaving or acting in the way that they like, they're just swiftly discarded.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.